maybe do some introductions. I think we have a few new people. So I'll just, boy, this is going to be hard because folks that don't have their video on, I only have initials, and two people have UU for initials. But let's just do it real quick. I'm Mark Bowling. I'm with Clean Water Services, and I'm retired / part-time employee now, but I've been working on the project for a long time and been helping Cello and Scott and Mike Bardette through all this stuff. So from Zonetta, would you go next, please?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Zonetta English, and I am the, I can't figure who I am. I'm the Strategic Initiatives and Project Delivery Director this week for our Louisville MSD. I'm supposed to help co-chair this committee, and I've been working with UIM for a pretty good while, so I've enjoyed it, and so glad to have everybody here.
Thank you. Is it Keistra?
Kesra, yes.
Keistra, thank you.
So my name is Kesra Osman. I work with Great Lakes Water Authority in their asset management group. My primary role really is helping them develop processes, communication plans, et cetera, et cetera.
Great, thank you. Patricia.
Good morning, I'm Patricia or Pat, either one, Butler, with Great Lakes Water Authority as well. We're in southeastern Michigan, and I'm in organizational development, and that's our HR department. And I work with our performance management. I work with apprenticeship programs, as well as our progression, which is our career ladders. I also support the asset management teams in the initiatives that we're doing on the people side.
Very good. Thank you for joining us. Makeda.
Makeda Weaver with DC Water and Sewer Authority. I work in our learning and development, so we do employee training and driving organizational culture and strategy directly to frontline employees.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Mike Stahl.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mike Stahl. I'm with the city of Grand Rapids in Michigan, so I'm on the other half of Michigan from all our Great Lakes Water friends. So I'm a project manager here, and I have been on UAIM so long that Cello had much more hair.
Thank you, Mike.
Right, that was great. So Abby, please.
Hi, everybody. I'm Abby Chrysostimo, and I'm the Strategic Asset Management Lead for the Thames Estuary 2100 plan at the Environment Agency here in the UK. And we are leading the implementation of our 100-year strategy on tidal flood risk. And I'm the kind of key link with our integrated delivery team, Team 2100.
Yeah, 100-year strategy. That's awesome. A friend of mine many years ago, colleague, told me, our economics are different in this industry because we're in the 100-year business, and so it's great to hear that someone's actually thinking about that far ahead. So thank you, Parajat.
Hello, everyone. I'm Parajat. I'm from Kansas City Water Department. I am organizational development specialist here. My role is OD initiatives and HR initiatives. Strategic HR initiatives, and other than that, I am interested in data analysis and all that, so I have been taking up some operational data analysis projects here and there.
Great, thank you for being here today. Mert.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mert Maftugil. I'm with Portland Water Bureau, the asset management branch. I pretty much work on, everything, asset management touches in an organization. And I've been with the UM starting from the last phase where I worked on some of the business process workflow development items for the asset management plan and enterprise risk management at the time. Thank you.
Thanks, Mert. Mr. Sweeney.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm in the Eastern time zone, so my stomach is growling, Mark. It's getting close to lunch. I'm Mike Sweeney. I'm with Toho Water Authority. We're based in Kissimmee, Florida. and I'm Deputy Executive Director with the authority. So I get to wear many hats. I've been involved with UAIM since its inception, and so Cello will appreciate this. So my hats include people, process, and technology. So
Nice.
Thank you.
Very good. Paul, please.
Yeah, Paul Cadota, Innovations Manager, Liquid Waste Services here at Metro Vancouver. I'm relatively new to UAIM, new this year, and looking forward to contributing. Thanks.
Thank you. Mohammed.
Hi, I'm Mohammed Rahman with Baltimore City Department of Public Works. I work as a manager for the wastewater utility section. I manage wastewater utility projects under consent decree. I'm new to UAM, but some of the other members from my department has been Yusuf Kabeda, who is the bureau head. He has been a part of a UAM for a little while. I'm happy to kind of learn and contribute to the team.
Great, thank you. Todd, Mr. Swingle.
Yep, Todd Swingle. I'm with Executive Director with Toho Water Authority, so I work with Mike closely. Been with UAIM and Cello since the beginning, so I had hair as well back then.
Yeah, mine was darker for sure. Did I miss? Well, Scott, please, Scott.
Scott, hailing from Seattle, working on the project team with Cello and supporting you all.
Great, thank you. Did I miss anyone? I think I got everyone.
Caroline Burka.
Oh, Caroline, please.
Hi, good morning. I'm Caroline Burka and work with Metro Vancouver with Paul Cadota. I'm an engineer in the Environmental Management and Quality Control Division, and I'm assisting Paul with culture change initiatives here in the liquid waste utility.
Great, thank you. Sorry about that. All right, so this morning what we're going to do, we're going to spend a little time preparing for the workshop because we really want to make that workshop effective and interactive, and we've got some tools to do that with. And so I'm gonna turn it over to Cello, and we're gonna walk through some of those tools. I had the opportunity to sit in with the other two groups, the change group, the organizational change group, and the workforce group earlier this week. We had some really good discussions there about how to use these tools, the kind of input we're looking for, which will really, I think, hopefully prepare us to do a good job of that. So Cello, would you please kick it off from here? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Just to make sure, can you guys see the slide?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, let me just try this again. How about now?
Yep.
There it is.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So thank you. So before I start going into this, I want to say, I know that you sometimes when you see my email say, oh my gosh, another one from Cello. There's this one that it'd be really good if you could pay, act on, and that is the doodle poll for the 3 days of the workshops we're going to have during December 14th. This will really help us plan. So you can go to the doodle poll and say, these are the meetings that I can make, that I intend to attend. So you'll find it's not going to be from Doodle, it's going to be an email from me, but there's a link there to the doodle poll. There are kind of practical reasons why I went this way rather than have Doodle send you an email. So the what we see on the screen is, on the right side is our methodology, and we've applied this methodology to business processes in the previous phases, which means we started with a maturity model that told us what was the range of maturity capability for business processes. Then we analyzed what the current processes are using business process modeling, so which was an equivalent to a system model. And then we analyze these business process models, figure out what improvements could be made. We designed what we would like to have to be system state. And at that point in time, with this bottom plan improvements, implement improvements, this is where really, although the workforce and organization are strongly impacting the first three bubbles, it is especially important in these phases of planning and implementing improvements. So we're going to approach these two issues, which are not as technical as business processes, using the same framework, the same methodology, which means we're going to start with defining a maturity model that basically tell us how well something could be done and presents a range of capabilities from 1 being not very strong and 5 being aspirational or great. Most maturity models have a scale from 1 to 5. There are different maturity models out there for different things. So our goal for the workshop will be to define the maturity models for workforce and for organization. We have another component in this, quote, people topics. Organization, I mean organizational culture as well, basically. We have another topic, which is change management. And change management is a little different because it's really defined as a process. So we will have a little bit different approach to the maturity model. We're working on it right now for the change management, but it will fit into the same methodology. So we're at this first yellow bubble to figure out a frame for assessing, how well the capabilities in different areas. So through some discussions and research and participation, we've defined the components of maturity for organizational culture and this and governance as well, and the impact of governance. And the basis for this was Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team, and also there were some sources, other sources that we used. So we will have these 5 components, if you will, and then we'll really try to, in the next couple of weeks and through the workshops, develop a scale that says the characteristics for, let's say, attention to results. 1 being nobody pays attention to any results, and 5 being everybody is aware of all the results, or accountability and stuff like that. We have a framework for the workforce maturity model that is based on Daniel Pink's work on motivation. He integrated the research from different places, starting from Maslow and so forth. So we have the 3 components of motivation, which is purpose, autonomy, and mastery. And what we did as a foundational layer added fairness and inclusion. And these things that you see, these kind of statements like this one, it comes from another document. I don't want to overcomplicate today's conversation, but we will provide. It comes from a document from the federal government, which use from Office Personnel Management, and I don't want to get too far into it. So we combined things that are broadly regarded as sort of reasonable frameworks, such as Lencioni and the Drive from Daniel Pink and this Office of Personnel Management. And in the next couple of weeks, we're going to sharpen this up to make things easier for people to kind of navigate. So our plan is to have workshops on the 14th. I'm sorry. This week we have planning meetings for the workshop. So today we're using this time slot to discuss the workshops, which are going to be 2 weeks from now. And this actually is how the video starts. We sent out a couple of videos, one that explains that improvement methodology those bubbles that I said, on an example of business processes. That's about 6 minutes. And then a video that is basically done from this presentation that shows how we're going to conduct the workshops. You can see like what the models are and that we looked at for culture and for workforce and so forth. But if you have a chance, if you haven't done so already, it'll be reasonably effective and a quick way to get introduced to these ideas. As I said, one is 6 minutes, the other one is 7 minutes. So in 15 minutes, you can see both of them. So this week, we're planning for the workshop, and we're going to continue to do that. And then the workshops themselves are going to be on the 14th, 16th, and 17th. In previous discussions and meetings, people really liked the idea of breakout sessions. Having a breakout session, if we were actually in person and we had more time, people could just go to a different room and come back and stuff. For the workshops, since we have so many people participating in these three initiatives, we realized that it would be difficult to find like a new time slot that would be good for everybody. So we're going to use the time slots that we have available already, that at least some people have booked them, which is our regular bi-weekly meetings such as this one. So on Monday, we're going to use that slot, the workforce slot, for a breakout session on the workforce maturity models. On the Wednesday, which is a regular slot for change management, we're going to do a workshop on the organizational culture maturity models. And on the 17th, we're going to do a report out and integration and sort of getting the reports from these two breakout sessions, discuss things and collect enough information that we can really start finalizing these maturity models and kind of polish up that first step. So that is the plan, and I'm gonna, if you watch the video, it will also introduce you to the tool that we're gonna be using. But before I go to that, I wanna just stop and see if there are any questions or concerns or comments.
And this is we really do want to get your thoughts, ideas. We in the previous two meetings worked well to just raise your hand. I'll monitor that and just call on folks, because this is a good opportunity to work on these things. So please, if you have some questions or a comment. All right, not seeing any, so I think we're okay. Cello, can we go on to we have Scott, please.
Okay.
I would just add and just emphasize one thing that Cello said, which was that he's sending out a memo here that will have a link to, in effect, a doodle poll. And it's very important for people, if you were going to look at one thing in addition to those other two videos to get ready for this, that's what you would want to look at, because it has, you're indicating which of these sessions you're interested in attending, so that he can send the appropriate invites. And so we know what kind of audience we're going to have. And also, this group is, anyone can attend any of these sessions, but we need to know which ones you're intending to go to.
Yes, thank you, Scott. And also, we've opened up this workshop not just to people who are participating on the people topics, but also people who are working on, CIP delivery and so forth. So we currently have officially on the list 102 people from all these different utilities who are participating, and I really want to avoid sending emails to 102 people about each one of these workshops and stuff like that. because I know that everybody's got a full plate and everything like that. So that will sort us out well in terms of targeting the messaging and everything. So, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Please, no, please, Joe, go ahead.
So I will show something. This is the tool that we're going to be using during the workshop. And give me just a second. I am a little bit hesitant to send out a, you will receive a link to, this is the page for organizational culture. So, and these stickies that can be moved, as the video will explain, we're going to simulate just a situation like we were in-person workshop where we had a whiteboard and a bunch of sticky notes, and the color indicate when we were building these pink one are like what would on level 1 look like, which means for organizational culture that's not very mature. And 5, which would be aspirational. So you will see that some of these stickies have, departments are siloed, and then we'll have to figure out where we're going to try to figure out where they fit so that we end up, so these sticky notes were generated by people who participated, and video will show that when you click on this here, you'll get these sticky notes, and you can move them around, and you can write on them and stuff like that. So that's what we're going to try to do. We're going to have a couple of meetings with a few people, with a smaller group, to kind of figure out what's the best way to balance, to have a balance between having something truly interactive and having, and potential for chaos if 25 people start moving and adding these stickers, how we're going to manage that, versus we want to really maximize the interaction, but we also want to have some structure that makes it a little bit less chaotic. So we're going to be working on that. So that is the sort of the tool and the mechanism we're going to use for interaction. And I just want to stop at this point and see if there are any comments.
I just have a question. This is Pat. What tool are you using to do the sticky note? Like, is this a Word document, or are you using something else?
This is called Mural. Yeah, this is called Mural. M-U-R-A-L. I'm sorry.
Okay.
So before the workshop, I will send everybody a link, a visitor's link, and I'll send the email about with the link to these videos was sent out a little while back, so you were not on the list yet. So I will send you a link to these two videos, which, as I said, will take only about 15 minutes to go through. And that will provide, the second video provides an explanation. I will send everybody a link so everybody will see a page like this, and they will be able to do what I was doing right now. So it's an online tool, and it's the best thing that I could find that would allow us to have this kind of participation. And we'll just have to also exercise a little bit of judgment. So, for example, the stickies right now that are here, these notes, I didn't take the liberty to say, okay, these 3 or 4 things are, all about the same thing or anything like that. So if I go to, for example, I'll go to a different, this is, for the people side, this is for the workforce, so it's a different one. So if you look here, you have fear of sharing ideas, employees fear change, all voices are not heard, being punished for speaking out, so I'm not saying that they're not valid, they're completely valid, but maybe we can find like an umbrella sticky note so we can fit more. We're not going to be able to put, 100 stickies here. And when we define the characteristics at the end, we also want to have something that has an assessment method hopefully associated with it, so that we have a way to find out, for example, how much resistance to change, which is this sticky, how much of that is in the organization and stuff like that. So I just want to again stop. I'm a little bit self-conscious about talking for too long.
Yeah, Carolyn, you have your hand up, please.
Yes, I remember it mentioned at a previous meeting that somebody, I'm sorry, I can't remember who, described the maturity model and the sort of the 1 to 5 as being bookends for behaviors of sort of what what we least wanted to see in terms of behaviors and what we most wanted. And I'm noticing that a lot of the stickies on, the samples here are more describing outcomes or states of being. I'm wondering if in the workshop you plan to guide people or request that people think about behaviors more than outcomes, or if you're just going to leave it completely open and sort of a free, put any thoughts that come to your head, completely open brainstorming, or if you're going to try and channel people towards strictly outcomes or strictly behaviors.
Yeah, this is a tricky topic or issue, or it's a very good question, but we're trying to find the right balance between the project team being prescriptive, which would kind of defeat the whole spirit of this project, which is that utilities get to have a say, that there's interaction, that there's participation and engagement, and having a sort of a system that looks like a diffuser rather than a funnel, meaning going from narrow to going out too broad, and then rather than ending up with something. We're going to have to end up with maybe 3 or 4 characteristics for each one of these boxes, not 50. So in this first phase, we want to just collect the ideas, and then we'll have to kind of prune and consolidate these things into something that's easy to manage, and that's easy that's easy to work with. So the difference, the maturity models are intended to show the levels of capabilities. So it is, and we can discuss because the behaviors can also be outcomes, because the way behavior may be an outcome of whether it's a top-down organization or how much control people below have. So it is a very worthwhile discussion, but I was a little bit reluctant to frame it either into, how should I say, to make this distinction too early. So if we look at some of these, fear of sharing ideas, you could say that this is sort of part of behavior, or you could say that this is part of an outcome. So when we collect these things, then we can make these types of decisions. So I would kind of hate to prejudge or pre-structure too much before we get into it. Does that answer your question at all?
Yes, thanks.
Okay.
Great. Got a couple more hands up.
Kestra. Yeah, so I have a couple of questions. I guess my first question is a lead up to what you just said. So if I'm in this workshop and I'm looking at the stickies that are out there, am I to kind of look at this and say, what does this mean to me? Is it something that I feel is an issue today that needs fixing? Or is it something that I feel should be, you know, in our desired state in the future that we need to fix? So I'm kind of struggling with, because if I look at these, I'm going to start looking at my organization and say, okay, this is an issue I have, but I guess my question is it, you know, for me to be more open-minded would be to say, you know, where do I really want, where do I think the organization should be in the future? So I guess, again, it's that outcome versus behavior question, and I'm still struggling with that a little bit. And my second question really is there a difference between the pink and the green stickies? Because I kind of see some positive negatives in both, and I'm
well, yeah, these stickies were done, you know, by utility partners when we told them, well, what? I'm sorry, I'll go back to the organizational one. So we asked them, well, what is a really, you know, a level 1 mature, which is something where you don't want to be? What does that culture look like? How would you recognize it? And the person who brought up this, you know, was Joseph Cabeda, who said that they start with what is it that we definitely don't want, and what is it something that would be really preferred for us. And I thought that was very insightful, because it helps provide bookends for that range. So if I think, let me just bring something else in, and this is again from the other. This is from the other video, and I'm going to show. And this is an example how a maturity model for business processes was used, and it's explained, as I said, it's a video for this step, which is just a framework. And this comes from Carnegie Mellon, from a capability maturity model for processes from CMMI Institute. And it says on level 1, people can, you know, just get their job done. All the knowledge is in people's heads. And what is it? What is it that you see? You see firefighting, individual and team heroics. Let me zoom in. You see, you know, ad hoc activities. You could say, well, you know, in a situation like that, succession planning is a little bit of a challenge. Training is a little bit of a challenge, because everything is in people's head. Then on the second level, what they call managed, it's where the knowledge is within a team that is managed. So that is improved because it's not just in one person's head, it's, you know, shared by more people. And then below are, you know, things that you would see, the outcomes, if you will, the repeatable practices, reduced work, satisfied commitments, it's more scalable. And then the level 3 is when there are standard processes. So in the work, which means that number 1, they're documented. And it's astonishing that many utilities really don't have much documentation of their processes. So when we were doing business process modeling in the previous phases, we were actually moving business processes from level 2 to level 3, because there was now a standardized documentation. And then level 4, and this is for business processes, is to say you manage processes based on quantitative metrics and KPIs. And then the 5 is innovating and continuous improvement and stuff like that. So this is an example of a maturity model that was applied to processes. So we're looking for something equivalent like that on, let's say, for an organization. And that says, you know, what are the characteristics, what are the features of each stage, and then improve. So assessment method would then say, if we walk to a specific utility, for example, on this level of business process to make it really simple. Do you have your processes documented? And if they don't have them, they're not a 3, they're either 1 or a 2. Do you know what I mean? So we would need to, and there's then an assessment method, which is the third component that says, you know where you are, and then an improvement methodology that says how do we improve things so that at the end of the day we can improve performance and things like that. Does that make and reduce costs and whatever other metrics you're using? Does this help at all?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay.
Scott, please, you're next.
Yeah, I would just adding on to addressing Casara's question about there's the maturity, which kind of says for organization and for workforce, what represents high performance versus low performance on that scale and what's aspirational over there. But that's sort of the beginning. And the idea is that if you were saying, where is my organization today? Then you would maybe have something on a 1 through 5 scale. You would identify where your major gaps are, what improvements you want to focus on, and then you start getting into change management, which is where do you want to be, and how are you going to get there, and what does that process look like for you to get from as is to be. So your question is, how does this fit into some of that? And this is just the first step, and we'll be progressing through the assessment. How do you assess, and then how do you improve as we continue our discussions for the rest of the project.
And one thing, there's been some discussion in the chat about, maybe should we favor behaviors versus outcomes? And what I hope is that we'll get a lot of both. And what I hope to do, this is something I'm a bit of a summarizer. I'm kind of like I like look at the bigger picture things. But one of the things I've learned over the years is what we don't want to do in this case. We may want to create a summary document, but we do not want to lose all of that rich conversation, rich ideas that we had that built those summary things. So certainly it's my intention to not lose any of those ideas and things that are put together, and to make this so, like, as we're looking at this right now, it's really two-dimensional. But what I hope that we have by the end of these workshops, and then as we continue to build into the new year, is that this becomes multidimensional, and we've got behaviors which tend to create outcomes, right? So you'd have the outcome that you're looking for, and then in lower layers you would have types of behaviors you see. These are the behaviors you don't want if you're trying to achieve these outcomes. And so, yeah, absolutely. I think if we get a good set of people to participate, I think we'll get a lot of both, and we don't want to lose any of that those really good ideas.
Caroline, does that answer your question at all?
Yeah, I think sorry. I'm just reading the chat and listening to all of you, and I understand that my question was really if you were going to leave it wide open for the workshop. I think it's a little bit of a balance with people giving people instructions so that they can kind of focus and be able to feel like they're contributing something that's towards your desired objective of the workshop. So some structure and some limits help sometimes, but I can understand your desire to get all ideas and then sort of synthesize them afterwards. So yeah, it's you've answered my question. Thank you. I just wanted to know sort of what your approach was.
Yeah.
You make a great point too. We want to have, and isn't that the trick? Providing enough structure so it isn't just, you know, but not so much structure that we run people too narrowly down certain channels, because we really do want to. I mean, this is an amazing group of people, of utility folks, and we certainly don't want to stifle that, some of that great ideas that are going to come forward. So yeah, you're hitting the nail on the head. We just got, we just want to make sure we give it enough structure, so that it's not crazy random, but not so much that we limit people's. Is there another? Let me check here. Zonetta, please.
I just wanted to echo. I think Ms. Burka mentioned the things that I were concerned about it, and I'm a process person, so I'm hoping that we will send out an agenda and then the process flow for how this will all work. I'm doing the numbers in my head and the math, and you talk about 102 people. You have 3 groups. If you get 75% participation, you're talking about 25 group. And so how are you going to do that if you're going to limit how many stickies that we have, or there's only so much room for them? So all of that is to say is that I really think we're going to have to really spend some time mapping this out so that we can get the most efficient use of our time. And that's just my only comment, to be very cautious about how we're going to do that. I love the aspect of having some structure, leaving it open, but how the mechanism to do that and who's going to facilitate these 3 different groups and how it's all going to mesh together. These 3 sessions, I mean. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Zonetta, and that's a very valid point. And I think, you know, what is a little bit regrettable is that we're doing this in conditions where we cannot have, it would be a lot easier to do this if we had the same workshop, maybe at the same place, like we had in 2019, because that would give us the amount of time. People will not be, you know, people would be sort of away from their workplace and would be able to interact directly. We had so many sticky notes in that workshop, you know, in 2019 at Clean Water Services. So I'm going to be sending out, some more materials and notes, and I will be working on with Scott and others and the leads on the people initiatives on trying to make these as effective as possible. And the one thing to recognize is that we're attacking huge issues, and we have a number of different people from different organizations. So the first maturity model that we put together, you know, this month, let's say, and you know, we still have holidays, you know, to deal with. Is not maybe going to be perfect, but it's going to be a start. And it will, if we, whatever we do now, we may revise 6 months from now or a year from now, but to, as both you and Mark said, is, you know, finding that balance between too much structure and not enough structure. We'll just have to iterate and see what works best. And I don't think we're going to have, you know, 102 people are on the list, but I that's why that poll was so important. But I don't think we're going to have a huge, you know, we may not have like a completely unmanageable number of people attending. We'll see.
Yeah, and Cello, I've thought about, Zonetta brings up a really good point. I've thought about this potential issue too, and I think what we do is once we get the number of participants in each, we may decide that we need to break into some subgroups and have like, for instance, Cello can take a group, Scott can take a group. So we may start with that same mural. And I'm just throwing an idea out here, but we could start with that same mural starting place, and then have 3 groups working on it, and then later bring those things together. But we'll see how many people sign up for each one.
Yes, yeah, and that, you know, if it'd be great if we could have that number before the weekend, because the weekend is when I have the most time to devote to sorting through all the information and preparing for the materials for the next week. So yeah, we'll see. You know, if we have 8 people for each of the sessions, you know, we'll have probably a different approach than if we have 30 people. We'll
Right.
see.
Right. And until we have another week, right? Because we're talking, the workshops are not next week, but the following week, right?
That's correct. They have 14, 16, and 17.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we've got some time to work through this with a couple hands up. Just wanted to make sure those were just left over from your previous comments for Zonetta and Caroline.
No, I agree with that, and my only suggestion would be that we go ahead and, because I filled it out already, is Dr. Cello, just maybe send out a reminder and give people, you know, that you want to get a deadline by tomorrow, because it will take some time and we really need to get those numbers. I'm just very concerned about us taking up another time and us not getting, you know, getting what we want out of it.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
We'll lose momentum that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Okay, so any other thoughts? I can just say that Parijat from Kansas City was gracious enough to share some information and some references and sources with me, which were really, really appreciated. So these kind of things that appear are from the literature and that she has provided. So, which makes me feel a little bit better about, you know, how we're going to manage this and have things that can be translated fairly effectively into some assessment method and actionable items, because we definitely don't want to have, you know, this is not a book club where we're going to just talk about practical, you know, what different sources said. We got to get to something that's practical and that people can take to their management and say, see, this was worth it. And I have some ideas on how to make it scalable, which means that we don't have to boil the ocean. But I don't want to introduce too many things at the same time. So I think once we nail down this this maturity model, we'll be looking at the assessment methods and the next steps and so forth.
Good deal.
Okay.
Okay, Cello, and I think that's what you wanted to present today, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Great, great. Scott, you've got your hand up, please.
Yeah, I was just gonna. I think this has been great. This is what we were looking for, was feedback on the workshop, so that basically over the next couple of weeks it can be pulled together and deal with, you know, to what extent is it structured for people versus open-ended, and all of that, and also keeping in mind that it's not the end of the story when we finish the workshop. I mean, there's still, you know, some refinement that's going to occur based on the input that we receive, and that there's going to be time in January to work on that. So it's not going to, the outcome of the workshop isn't going to be a final version or anything like that.
We've got some good suggestions coming through in the chat in terms of if we do break into smaller groups, we could offer to have people, if they want to work on the behaviors or if they want to work on the outcomes. And then we could even perhaps have people self-select which group they would want. And so that's definitely something we can put in the mix here as we're working on the prep for those workshops. So good ideas. Thank you for those. Is there other thoughts? Oops, wrong button there. Other thoughts, please. Pat, please.
I just wanted to kind of, I think Zonetta was the one who said it. Having conducted a couple of different type of things over Zoom or whatever the platform is, and a large group, it is critically important to have the agenda and have it and stick to the agenda, have the breakout groups done ahead of time, have it scheduled, because otherwise you waste a lot of time and people don't know what to do. So I just wanted to kind of, just second what Zanetta was saying. So the more organized it is, and even a practice run through with, some people just to kind of see how it'll work, it is also helpful, because just conducting a meeting online like this with a number of people, especially if you have over, 30 people, it's completely different than trying to do it in person.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, very good point. Thank you. Thank you, Pat. Other thoughts or comments before we close for the day? All right. Well, seeing no hands, I think we'll wrap up for today. This has been great discussion. I expected that. This is a fantastic group, and so we'll take these things.